Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Lake Show Digest. Coming at you on a Wednesday afternoon. The Los Angeles Lakers just got a huge win over the New York Knicks, 99-101 in overtime. This is not a high-scoring game, only 101 points, including overtime for the Lakers, only 99 for the Knicks. This is like some 80s, 90s, old head, greatest of all time kind of action. But I thought it was entertaining as hell, honestly. Julius Randle and Anthony Davis were guarding each other most of the game, and they were both absolutely bringing it on both ends. How often do we see a team's best player on the floor that night guard the other best player on the floor for the most of the game? It doesn't happen that often unless it's, playoff time. So it was a real treat to get this in the regular season. I think the Knicks were trying to secure the 6th seed or something like that. And then we're obviously in the position we are with being in the play-in tournament right now. But there's a lot of great stuff. Andre Drummond had his clear-cut best game as a Laker. Anthony Davis had Julius Randle in San Quentin on a crucial late game possession. Kuzma dropped 20+. Wes Matthews got a really clutch box out and a putback to send it OT. And the big thing, Talen Horton-Tucker hit the fucking game winner over his childhood idol, Derrick Rose. So this is an amazing game for us, especially after we have that bad loss to the Knicks earlier in the season. The Lakers were without their 3 main ball handlers, LeBron, Schroeder, and Caruso actually had to leave early. So T was the only guy with a handle who could bring it up the floor kind of reliably. This is also coming off another incredible victory over the Phoenix Suns, where we beat their healthy team without LeBron or Schroeder by 10+. So things are looking good for us. And in terms of the show, this is our first show in 2 weeks. Life just got really busy for me, and the Lakers were kind of playing like shit. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world just to lament over these bad losses. But we get a big win over Denver. Big win over Phoenix. Anthony Davis is looking like himself again. Like, I'm feeling pretty good. Even so, the play-in tournament's looking pretty likely. So I've kind of mentally accepted that. But the 6th seed is still in play. And to help relive the glory and to talk about just the position the Lakers are in, we got the homie Martin. How you doing, bro?
Bro, I'm doing very well. Huge win last night. Very excited about it. And very excited for tonight, man, for banner night. Can't wait to see that thing drop in Staples Center. It's as worthy of any other championship, in NBA history, if not more difficult being in the bubble. So we deserve this moment. Really, really excited to, of course, with fans being there, really excited for the fans tonight to see them drop the banner.
I know. How much do you think banner night tickets would have costed, bro? Did you even look it up?
So I went to a Sacramento Kings game. I can't believe we lost that game, but I went to the Kings game because
I felt bad for you, bro. I've been to Laker games that we've lost on buzzer beaters before. It was Andre Iguodala in the 2008-9 championship year, like one of the few losses we had.
The Sixers, right?
The Sixers, when he was on the Sixers.
Yeah,
he got us the buzzer beater, and it was my first Laker game since I was like a baby, so I was all hyped. And anyways, tell me more about your in-game experience. I want to hear about that.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, obviously, like I said, it sucked. I couldn't believe we lost to the Kings because they were out like literally their 4 best players. But it was the seats were amazing. I took pictures. I got like some videos. Like I was 12 rows behind Jeannie Buss, and it was just nice to be there. Everybody has to wear a mask at all times. There's a separate food and drink section. And it was great to be there. So I'm super excited for this banner to drop. Like I said, just as worthy as any other championship, just as difficult, if not more difficult. And I'm excited for the people that are going tonight to be in the building. And I know it was a hot ticket, man. Prices for tonight were probably sky high.
I hope one day, though, we could go to a banner dropping, because that's like a once in a lifetime pretty much night. Unless
it
you're
is,
a season
right.
ticket holder. I mean, to see the banner drop, shit. I mean, not many franchises get that opportunity.
Right.
And even us, who we obviously win a lot of championships, so we get more opportunities than usual. It's still a rare opportunity. So looking forward to that, man. We got the Rockets. That should be an easy win, though I think AD will be getting some rest. What do you think?
I think it should. He's been playing great, man. Really coming into form. Like that's what you said. You said coming into form. That's what I see. We played Portland, and he looked like really good. He was still missing shots, I think, that he makes, but he looked good. He looked active. And then we played Denver, and he looked even better. He looked, he was really giving Jokic problems offensively and defensively, and he had this amazing block at the end that we remember. And then against Phoenix, he goes, bonkers, 42 points, and I'm like, okay, AD like knows what time it is. We have like 10 days left. And then you had last night, slugfest, like you said, like an 80s, maybe early 90s type style game, which I got to say, man, shout out to the Knicks. I love what they're doing. And last night's game was more entertaining to me than some dog shit Hawks game that's like 129 to 147. Like that to me isn't entertaining. Last night was competitive. You got to see stars. I always liked Julius Randle when he was a Laker, and I thought that we did a bad job developing him. And he was a problem yesterday. Him and AD going back and forth was fun to watch. But going into the Rockets game, I do think we should rest AD because, I mean, Houston's lost 50 games. They're all in on the number one pick. That's where they're at right now. LeBron is supposed to play, so we should win without Anthony Davis. You can't lose to a team that's, like I said, lost 50 games, and hopefully they keep this momentum going,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think to eclipse, who is it, Portland, we would have to go 3-1 on this final stretch. So we won last night, so there's one. But they would have to go like 1-3. So it's not completely in our hands, but there is a path back to the play-in. I mean, back out of the play-in. I want to ask, though, what do you think? Would you like that 6th seed and that week of rest? Or would you like the 7th seed? I'm kind of looking at the 7th seed and looking like it might be nice, but if we are banged up and need that rest, then I definitely want that 6th seed. But where are you at with it?
I understand both sides of that coin because, I'm confident if we get to the play-in, we'll win, which is probably going to be the Warriors at 8. So I'm confident we'll beat the Warriors. And if we do beat the Warriors, that means we play Phoenix at 2. And I think that's the worst scenario for Phoenix because they are a great team, but out of 1 through 9, we're just the absolute worst matchup for them. Having said that, I would prefer not to be in the play-in game. And I know that means going up against a more difficult matchup for us, which would be the Clippers. But to me,
Denver, I think.
Or maybe Denver. I think that the Clippers are going to hold on, but you never know. Denver might creep up there with this last week. So I think the Clippers are going to hold on. And to me, because of the team we are, I think rest is more important. I think avoiding the play-in is an extra 4 days of rest, probably. And 4 days of rest for this group of guys is like everything, especially with LeBron's ankle, AD's leg, and, Schroeder has COVID protocols. He can't come back until Sunday at the earliest, I think. So I'm all about let's get out of the play-in. Having said that, if we are in the play-in, I'm confident that they could win that game. Then they'll have to play Phoenix. But for me, a team like this, rest is more important. So I'm all about winning these next – how many games we have? We have 3 games. I'm all about going 3-0 and trying to get that 6th seed.
I'm certainly about going 3-0, but I have talked myself into the 7th seed. But jumping back to the 6th seed, yeah, that rest is going to be huge. LeBron and AD, most importantly. But, bro, our role players have been banged up all freaking year. Literally everyone is dealing with something. Caruso had to leave the game early because of a right foot injury. I think something just kind of flared up and he had to leave. We got to get the GOAT right for the playoffs. So we got to get Caruso right. We got to get KCP's been dealing with little things all damn year. Keith, who may not even see consistent minutes in the playoffs, though, but I want him to be healthy. He had that right ankle. He tweaked it a couple weeks ago. Drummond, I don't know if his toenail's back, but I'm sure he could use some rest. And, of course, most importantly, Bron and AD. Kuzma, too. Like, literally all our guys are dealing with something.
Everyone, every single player, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the 7th seed, I've just kind of talked myself into it just because of that Phoenix game, dude. They have nobody to defend Anthony Davis, bro. Like Frank Kaminsky, DeAndre Ayton, who has talent offensively, but defensively, he is far behind. And who else they got? Saric, like that is barbecue chicken. That is like the finest barbecue chicken in America for
Yeah.
Anthony Davis and for our big men.
42 points against them, man. He did whatever he wanted in that game last week. He did.
And I think even a guy like Trez could do some good things against them. Thankfully, we've been seeing that Mark and Trez line up a bit more. Did you catch any of those minutes where we saw Mark and Trez this Knicks game?
Yeah, it was important, especially because AD's been playing a lot of minutes. So I've been kind of like watching games, getting excited, like for the things that I'm seeing him do because he looks like his regular self. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to take AD out. He's played like 8 straight minutes, Vogel, or whatever it is, 9 straight minutes.
And I hate when he walks up the court like an old freaking man after the whistle.
he
It's
really
like a
does,
man, dude.
especially last night. And I was like, oh, dear God, is he out again? Because he was walking like very gingerly. But to your point, it's nice to see the Gasol Trez lineups. I want to give, Gasol has had, he's had some difficult moments, but man-to-man defense, like he is good against those back-to-the-basket centers like Embiid, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic, and his playmaking and his shooting definitely opens up. And I think when like people on Twitter, on Lakers Twitter, we're not asking for Gasol to play 28 minutes in the playoffs because that's too much to ask for him. He is not
We're
the
not
guy.
asking that for Drummond either. And I hope
Or
Frank
Drummond.
doesn't ask that.
Right. So in the playoffs, yeah, I'd like to see Montrez Gasol lineups. And hopefully we could just stagger a little bit, especially the last 6 minutes of the game. I'll be honest, in the playoffs, I don't want to see Drummond out there the last 6 minutes of the game. That is Marc Gasol time. So if you want to rest Gasol in the third quarter, that's fine. But in the last 6 minutes, I don't know. He's a valuable, really valuable rebounder, but Drummond makes me so freaking nervous out there. But we'll see. Maybe it's just dependent on the matchup if we play Phoenix or the Clippers or the Jazz or whoever it is,
Yeah, I kind of feel the same about Drummond. I want him to get those first and third quarter shifts that JaVale got.
First and third. Yep.
Yep, first and third. And if we really need rebounding in the matchup, then it'll be a trade-off whenever he comes on the floor. The most frustrating part of his game, man. He was huge. We should talk about it. He had his best game against the Knicks. He had like 18 rebounds, like 16
Yeah, he did.
points, something like that. And his rebounds, he got 5 offensive rebounds, and there's some big ones, dude. I loved those like 2008 to 2010 teams with Kobe, Powell, Bynum, and Odom because the rebounding was always there every night. We were so big. So I just have a thing for teams that are really good at rebounding. So I love when Drummond gets these big boards. But in terms of Drummond, you've had a lot of opinions about him lately. I'd like to hear where you're at with him, given the sample size we have now.
I mean, it's a good point. He was really, clutch for them last night. Like you said, 18 rebounds. Was it 18 or 19 rebounds? Or I think you said 18.
He was a one-man rebounding army. It was it was near that 20 rebound range.
And that was they were all of them, big time. But seeing him when you watch, like when you're a fan of a sport, you just like watch games and you like pick up on things, you watch highlights. But it hits different when you watch your team, like when you watch your team, I catch everything. I catch everything on the Lakers. So for me with Drummond, it's like, dude, were you an all-star because you were putting up 29 points, 24 rebounds, and Detroit lost the game by 10 every night? Because like the finishing and the skill level around the rim, and I'm not saying anything that everyone doesn't know. We all have seen this now. That's the frustrating part, especially the fouls he commits to. He commits like silly fouls, which I'm definitely used to because Dwight Howard was our center last year, and he committed the most goofy fouls that would make me pull my hair out. But Drummond's not, a bum, but at the same time,
he makes bum plays sometimes.
He makes like he missed a layup, like just point blank layups, and he misses dunks when he's just too damn big, dude. You're 6'10". You just can't miss a dunk like that. Having said that, I think, and I trust Vogel. We've talked about it a million times to use that Joker card. So give him first and third quarter, and hopefully, I think in the last 5 minutes, I think you should go with Gasol and a combination of AD. And depending on the matchup, though, so I guess we'll just have to see how the matchup works.
Absolutely, yeah. That Denver game really gave me confidence in Gasol, dude. Did you see those possessions that Gasol was doing on Jokic? Man, I just love that. Two cerebral big dudes just going at each other, and they were both bringing everything they could to that matchup. So, yeah, this last stretch of games between the Denver Clippers game was kind of a wash because AD had to leave early, so don't really count that. Also, fuck the Clippers. Phoenix Suns and this last one against the Knicks. Been really encouraging. I loved that Gasol-Jokic matchup. And Gasol-Trez last night was pretty good too because Gasol's doing his thing, and also Trez has that option to create too. I don't remember if they probably switched it back on defense. You know, Gasol would be the 4 on offense, I believe, and the 5 on D. I wasn't paying attention to that, but I'm sure they did. So I'm glad that we're finally seeing some Gasol-Trez minutes because it's been long overdue for that, my man. Well, there was a lot of great things about this Knicks game, man. Why don't we talk about Talen Horton-Tucker a bit? Because that was a roller coaster, but it ended on a good note with that game winner, dude.
Yeah, it did. He's just got the shortest memory ever, which is a great thing, and it drives you mad too. But he really does have just such a short memory. He commits like a really awful turnover in overtime, just one that I don't know what, like he just tried to do too much, which sometimes he does. Just a terrible turnover. And then our next offensive possession back, no one's really moving around, and he just nails this step back 3-pointer right over Derrick Rose, two Chicago guys right over Derrick Rose to give us the lead. And I'm like, damn, this kid is just, I mean, you got to love that. You got to love him with like a really bad mistake and coming back. And I know Talen Horton-Tucker looks 37 years old with that beard and that face and that hairline and his game too. But dude, this guy can't even legally buy a drink yet. Like, I think that's what Rob Pelinka sees in him, and that's why we didn't trade for Kyle Lowry, because apparently the tipping point was THT. And I agree with Pelinka. Like, when the game slows down for Talen, hopefully this summer and hopefully in the next couple of years, like, he could really be a great starting point guard in this league. So shout out to him. He's still got to work on a lot, and I don't expect him to give us huge minutes in the playoffs. I don't think that's fair for him right now. I think you could only ask for maybe 12 to 15, but in those 12 to 15, man, you're going to get someone that's going to give it everything he has.
I know. And give him that shift the end of the first quarter, early second, to see if they can draw with some momentum. Like, remember in that Houston series, he came in, I think it was in the second or third quarter, got a few great buckets for us, totally energized the whole team. He does that, man, because everyone's rooting for him. He'll just energize the whole damn squad. So he can be a really good piece for us in this playoff run. I wanted to go back to I wanted to ask, what do you think of the Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond defensive duo so far?
I mean, it's defensively, I think it's a little bit so far been better on paper because
Absolutely.
I think on paper you're like, oh my gosh, 6'10", 6'11", these two guys, twin towers type thing. But it hasn't really come out like that, especially because we commit a lot of turnovers with those two. It's because of spacing's not great. Obviously, when LeBron comes back, let's see what happens. But I'm our like what's the term? Was it death lineup? Like, putting AD at the 5 in the last 5 minutes of the game. Everyone knows that's what like unlocks the Lakers. You got to play Davis at the 5 because it changes everything. So yeah, the Drummond Davis combination, to me, it's been a little bit better on paper. I'd like to see maybe some Gasol at the 4 and Davis at the 5 even. I think that would be a good lineup. Maybe Kuz at 3, Caruso, KCP out there. Like that's a closing lineup right there. So we'll see, especially because LeBron, we only got it like a little sample size. He played a little bit against Sacramento, then a little bit, and then he rested because he said, he came back maybe a little too soon. So with LeBron, everything changes.
Yeah, I do wonder if LeBron saw Andre Drummond blow that one alley-oop dunk, and he just said, "I'm just going to take a couple games off. I just don't want to do this shit."
Right. He was like, yo, that I need to rest for just a couple days, get my mind right, because
I was watching like AD and LeBron's body language after he did that. I mean, they didn't really do anything, but I was wondering what was going through their heads. Like, really, motherfucker, you were wide open there. You're the biggest guy in the court, and you just blew an alley-oop dunk like that.
You're right.
Yeah, but with AD and Drummond, man, you're totally right. It sounded amazing on paper. You knew two really athletic guys with great length and everything, but every time they get on the floor, they always get burned. Not every possession, not always, but if they're together on the floor for a shift, it always seems like somebody gets a really easy bucket in the paint. I'm like, why is that happening with Drummond and Davis? It seems that teams, what they do is they just drag AD somewhere outside the paint, like the perimeter, and then they get Drummond to be defending the pick and roll, get him switch onto the ball handler, and the big guy just gets behind him every time, and the paint is always freaking open. So that's been a real pet peeve of mine this year. Hate that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's what I've been noticing too. Yeah, they're trying to isolate Drummond, like you said. They want Drummond on the ball handler. It's in the scouting report. Every coach sees it. They're like, "Yo, let's run pick and roll. Make sure you bring out Drummond's big ass onto the ball handler.
Get AD out of the picture. Let's bring the stretch
get AD right.
Yeah,
and then there's always someone getting a 4-foot look at the rim, and it's been killing us. And if Drummond isn't fouling, then somebody's making a dunk. So it's been a little bit better. It's been a little bit better.
It's been so frustrating to watch that shit
on paper, because every coach sees it with Davis and Drummond. They know what to do. They're sucking him to the outside, and they've got like 4-foot looks like for bunnies every time.
Yeah, I know. Been really one of my most annoying things this year. But I think that's something that could be fixed with communication and with time. You'd think maybe they could just, figure out how they're going to defend that and get better communication with also the little guy that they're defending with. But I still feel like that's something fixable, because when people want to dump on Drummond and say it's like irredeemable when he can't defend those pick and rolls, like he could totally fix that. And his physical tools give me hope that he could still be a really, really powerful piece for us. If he can get those communication issues fixed. And I mean, it's going to take on-court reps, because they can work on it in practice, and we haven't gotten many practices this year in. But on-court reps always do the most in terms of improving your game, 100%. But going back to Anthony Davis, man, a game like this really makes me hopeful that we get to see Anthony Davis and THT, grow next to each other, because I really think that could be a star for the future in AD. I think THT has the tools to do it based on how young he is and based on what we've seen. I hope that's a pairing in the future for us, man. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I talked about it like a little bit before about like Pelinka tries to cover every base. He'd already mentioned after we won in the bubble, he was like, you know what? I don't think we could just run it back. Because too many times in professional sports, teams are just like, oh man, we won. Let's run it back. And sometimes you have to find a little bit of mix of bringing back guys and adding in guys. And that's why Pelinka's like holding on to THT. LeBron's can't play forever. Like as far as I'm concerned, the LeBron signing and AD trade doesn't even matter what the Lakers do in the next 5 years. It was worth it because of we won the championship. That's it. That's what you try to do in sports. You try to win, and we won. So that to me already, it's worth it. Having said that, now let's look to the future. When AD gets to his young 30s, he's still going to be dominant, still going to be one of the 10 best players in the world. But now you have potentially this young 22-year-old who's really developing into his game and turns into like I said, a great starting point guard as a running mate. And THT can be attractive to free agents too. Maybe free agents want to come play with this guy and Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's also another aspect of it. And even as LeBron ages, he likes to play next to guys who take the initiative offensively, guys like Kyrie. And we know that he loves playing next to Damian Lillard because he picks him in every All-Star game, and he picked him in Space Jam too. But you also see, even we saw with Kawhi next to LeBron a year ago in the All-Star game, how that duo was just killing it. You know, LeBron's amazing because he can set the table like the best, but he can also close like the best. But it seems like he does prefer to set the table. So a guy like THT who likes to take the initiative upon himself and score, you know, that's great pairing next to LeBron's game as he ages too. Add on to the fact that he can handle the ball and he's learning how to run an offense from a guy like LeBron and Phil Handy too. I'm still super high on that. I got a lot of THT stock and I'm holding on to that shit.
Yeah, as you should.
Mm-hmm. So that was a great game for us for the Knicks, man. But looking ahead, this weekend we have Kobe Bryant's Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Are you plan on watching that?
Yeah, definitely plan on watching that Saturday, man. Get to see Michael Jordan introduce Kobe to the Hall of Fame. I think I saw something today that Vanessa Bryant is also going to be speaking. I mean, that's going to be tough to watch, man. I'm not going to lie. I was a wreck watching the memorial service for Kobe, so I already know this will be, I'll be feeling emotional too, man. That's my favorite player ever, but definitely looking forward to watching the Hall of Fame ceremony. It's an amazing class, like Kobe, Garnett, Tim Duncan. Like, this is one of the best ever, man.
What a freaking class. I mean,
what an amazing class.
I mean, people call Duncan the best power forward of all time, and then you got Kobe and Garnett. Like, shit, I can't recall a class stronger than that in, I don't know, recent memory, bro. But yeah, I'll definitely be tuning into it too. I don't know, man. Even though it happened over a year ago, it still doesn't feel totally real to me. Maybe because Kobe, you know, he was already retired, so he was out of our daily lives in a sense. You know, he wasn't suiting up and playing games anymore. But moments like this remind me that, you know, that shit actually happened and it's real. It's gonna be a tough day, I think. Though there'll be some tough moments, but definitely looking forward to that too. And I just want to say one thing about Kobe, which I think gets lost. A lot of Laker fans acknowledge this, but I think a lot of people with other franchises, they say Kobe's impact on the game wasn't as consequential, for example, as someone like Steph. Well, that's true. Steph does influence the way that the game is played because he stretched the floor. Teams have to totally change their defense to defend him. And he was part of the reason that, you know, it's such a 3-heavy league today. But I think what we saw on the day that Kobe passed, how distraught everyone was, the reason why Kobe was so influential is because he's the reason that people love and play basketball. So it's just a different kind of influence, man. So I want people to acknowledge that when they talk about, you know, Kobe's influence on the game. It's much more motivational. That's the way that he got into people's hearts and stayed there. So that's my 2 cents on the whole thing. A guy like Steph has influenced the game for sure, but a guy like Kobe has definitely influenced people's motivations and the reason that they play basketball. He's the reason, you know, that I watch and follow the NBA so much. So that's a whole nother level of influence too, just on everyday people, not even players. But
true.
That's my little 2 cents on Kobe, man. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up, man. You got any final thoughts?
No, I do see that looks like LeBron is out, man. So I guess he's not ready. So that's like fresh off the press. I wanted to point that out because I was talking like LeBron's gonna play. Guess not.
You still rest AD?
Honestly I do. Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's not worth playing AD against a sorry ass team. And yeah, it's just especially because they are off until Saturday. So I did see that, man. But it's still a great night. You know, it's banner night. We get to see the banner drop. Looking forward to the end of this season. And yeah, all the Lakers fans, if you can, you got to watch the Hall of Fame induction on Saturday for Kobe Bryant, man.
That's going to be one for the books, bro. Anyways,
Yeah,
appreciate you coming on, man. Let AD get some rest, I'd say. See if the role players can handle that. Thanks for coming on, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Always.
All right, take it easy. Later.
Peace.